the first book. Did that taste weird? Hello everybody. We gotta do our iced coffee. It's pretty good. All right. Today's video is going to be my 2020 book recommendations. 2020 so far, mid-review, who knows. So I chose, my chair is not, okay. I chose one book from each month that I gave actually 5 stars. I was really surprised that I had a 5-star book each month. One was a cop out, but whatever. And we're gonna go over them, recommend them, not recommend them. Obviously not recommend them. I'm not here today, obviously. Okay, so let's get started. January is Tangerine by Christine Megan. So this book I did not hear of. I found it randomly in the library and was reading it while I was walking. Like, that was a thing I decided to do at the beginning of January, was to walk along the river at lunch every day. And like, that's what I remember this book from. It's just like walking on the water at lunch. Anyway, so there are these 2 women, Alice and what's the other girl's name? Alice and Lucy. And they were really good friends, best friends, roommates, and then they haven't talked in a year. And Alice moved to Tangier, Morocco, to just like, she just kind of got away, and she is married now to a guy named John. And Lucy comes to Tangier to see Alice. Basically, she like tracked her down and came to see her, and Alice is like dumbfounded that she's there. And anyway, they kind of go back into their old rhythms once she gets over like the initial shock of like, how did you find me? What's up? And Lucy has always been very fearless and adventurous, and Alice hasn't really quite taken to Morocco yet. She stays in her house most of the days. So she kind of gets her out into the wild, out to, you know, investigate the town and just like live it up kind of while she's living there. And then there's kind of like the plot twist of Alice's husband John goes missing or is dead. Goes missing or is dead. And at this point, Alice is kind of feeling controlled by Lucy again, like, you're forcing me to do these things. And now she's like, are you the one who made my husband go missing? She starts kind of getting worried about her mental state. Like, is she fully there? Does she remember things? And it's a really good story of manipulation, a really good kind of mystery, friendship. Doesn't take place in the US, well, a little bit takes place, I think, in New York City. And I was really surprised, one, that this was the book that I rented from the library, that randomly chosen, and how much I enjoyed it. It doesn't really sound, as I'm explaining it right now, that interesting, but I thoroughly loved this book and definitely was surprised at the ending. But it doesn't, if I remember correctly, it doesn't really read like a thriller mystery novel that I'll mention later. So that was January's pick. Now we're on to February, which was Charlotte Walsh Likes to Win by Joe Piazza. So again, this was actually a book I randomly picked up from the library that looked really good. And then I realized later that it was a Bad on Paper book club book. So then I obviously listened to the podcast and love it. If I remember to link it down below. I am a huge Bad on Paper woman named Charlotte Walsh. She is pretty high up. She's like C-level, I believe, in a tech company in San Francisco. And she's decided that she wants to get in politics. It's kind of a turmoil midterm race in her home state of Pennsylvania. And her husband also works at the same tech company, and he kind of has to take a back burner because he agrees to it, but he has to take care of their 3 children while she goes out and campaigns. And she has a very negative opponent. And so like a lot of things come out during this midterm election, and her husband starts getting resentful that, you know, she's not there and she's always away, and that he's doing all of this work and things are coming out. And basically there's some rockiness in their relationship, as well as a very rocky part of their relationship that comes out. And basically that's what the book is about. And it's about this whole election of this woman who I really loved, despite a few bad decisions, but you know, that kind of made the book more real, that she wasn't this perfect pedestal woman who does everything correctly. And again, it was a really surprising pick that I loved. So I highly recommend this, but like I am pretty into politics, so this really vibed with me. But I definitely think it could vibe with you if you're not into politics as well. So that was February's pick. Charlotte Walsh likes to. The March pick was The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. And obviously I am a huge fan of Riley Sager. This is no surprise. This book should come as this book might come as a surprise because I don't think I rated the last one. I think I might have rated it 3 stars. Anyway, so this book is about a woman named Emma who, when she was a teenager, she went to a kind of like a sleepaway camp called Camp Nightingale, which is like a really affluent, you know, upstate New York type of camp. And she got placed in a cabin with these older girls, like maybe probably like 2 years older, but like older, cooler girls. And she was the first time that they were reoccurring, I guess. Repeat, what's the word I'm looking for? They came multiple summers. So they were like the cool girls. And anyway, they used to always play Two Truths and a Lie together, so that's why it's called The Last Time I Lied. And essentially, girls went out late one night when Emma was in bed, and one of the girls went missing and they never saw her again. End of story. Just kidding. Then kind of fast forward, she's older, she's in her 30s. She's in art and she makes this really kind of dark looking art of, you know, woods and forest, obviously very triggered by Camp Nightingale. And she gets the attention of Francesca, who is the now older lady who was the creator of the camp. And she's like, we're reopening the camp and we want you to come and be a camp counselor. And she's like, I will never freaking go back there. And anyway, she ends up going back there. And she actually has to stay in the same cabin as before. And then she does just a lot of investigating to figure out like what happened to Vivian. A lot of twists and turns. It's a great novel. And the last few chapters are quite action-packed. So I definitely recommend The Last Time I Lied. I think I read this in one day. I think it was like a Saturday read. So big fan. April's was Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. So I got into Anthony Horowitz, I think last year. I never read the Alex Rider series, but I'm a huge fan of Midsummer Murder. So my mom and I decided to start reading Anthony Horowitz, and I love the Hawthorne series. Highly recommend it. I think there's only 2 books, but I love them. But this book is constantly referenced. I feel like it's a classic in this kind of mystery genre, and especially in British mystery and the shows I watch. So I finally got a chance to read it. I think I also got it from the library, and obviously loved it. So it's definitely a different kind of book compared to some other Anthony Horowitz's. No, not really. Now that I think about it, not really, but I still loved this premise. So this really well-known author named named Alan has died, and he finished his last novel. It's supposed to be the same as every other mystery kind of before in this series, and his editor Sue is like she starts reading it post his death. I think he's dead. It would only make sense if he was dead. And she's like, this isn't quite the same as all of these prior books. Something's weird. And she starts finding like these hidden messages within the book. And she thinks there is something bigger at play. And basically she's tracking down pages from this book and like reading them and trying to figure out what like happened to him and what is going on. And it's really interesting. I loved it. I thought it was, I don't know, words cannot explain. I just really enjoyed this book. All right, honorable mention for April is Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates. Great book. Just read it. Okay, so now we are on to May, which is The School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. I talked about this in my last video of 5 PD books or self-development books that you need to read. I won't go into it more. I highly recommend it. And that's the one I kind of cheated on. I don't know if that technically counts for this video, but again, I'm the mother of this video, so I supplemented you with my honorable mention for April. Okay, we have to flip over the post-it. Now we're on to June, which is The Overdue Life of Amy Blyer by Kelly Harms. And this book was on my TBR for a little bit. Did not expect to love it as much as I did. So it's basically about a woman named Amy Blyer. Her husband randomly left her to go to Hong Kong, and it's the summer, and she decides, her husband randomly shows up again, like, basically, I want to get to know the kids. I'm sorry I pieced out in Hong Kong. She wants to use her, like, continuing education credits, and she goes to New York City for a librarian's conference. She's a librarian, if I didn't say that. And she decides, like, she meets a guy there. She just is having a lot of fun. She's meeting with her good friends. And basically she's like, I don't know if I want to back to my normal life. And her husband asks to stay with the kids for longer in the summer. So she spends her whole summer in New York City, like living kind of this alternate life. And she gets kind of confused if she wants to go back to normal life. Obviously, I said that already. But things happen. Spoiler alert, she does go back to her normal life, but it kind of merges the two worlds together. And it was just like a really good, kind of feel-good book that was very nice to read at quarantine level June. So I really surprisingly did not know I was going to enjoy this book so much. And I'm saying that about every single book. So sorry. Okay. And finally, July, which is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Perfect sports romance. Hannah, a singer, Garrett, a hockey player. Hannah starts tutoring Garrett. They fall in love, and it's a great story. It's just, it's what we need. It's what we need right now. So those were my books. And I know I could explain the deal more, but that's all you really need to know. It's good, makes you smile, makes you feel love. Okay, so anyway, those were the books. I hope you enjoyed this video. And we'll just keep trucking along through 2020.